Now at 10, a Freeman doctor talks about an increase in COVID-19 related cardiovascular issues. Plus,
mental illness can sometimes be a difficult topic for people to talk about. I'm Chris Warner with how one artist is using his unique medium to bring a new light to mental health.
And as tensions rise on the Korean Peninsula, President Biden announces a new partnership aimed at increasing security in the Indo-Pacific region.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Cardiologist sees a rise in patients with cardiovascular issues after getting COVID-19. This is KOAM News at 10. Freeman Health System cardiologist Dr. Robert Stauffer says more people are having cardiovascular issues after recovering from COVID-19. But he says those who did not experience COVID pneumonia or other serious complications are able to recover.
So I saw a cross-country runner, for example, who could run, 10 miles, not even thinking twice. He couldn't walk across campus after COVID for about 3 months, and then after that, when I saw him back another time, he got completely better. So I think there's a lot of hope out there if you're one of those people who have this sort of long COVID syndrome.
Doctor adds if you had COVID and continue to have symptoms like shortness of breath and fatigue, there are some things you can do to improve. Slowly start exercising again, eat healthy foods, quit smoking if you currently smoke, and of course, continue to talk to your doctor. The number of COVID-19 hospital stays in Oklahoma is leveling off, but patients are staying in the hospital longer due to the Delta variant. That's according to the Oklahoma Hospital Association. State health officials say the 3-day average of new hospitalizations has fallen from 1,518 a day last week to 1,352 yesterday. But the average hospital stay has increased from 5 to 6 days in January to 10 to 11 days now. And ICU stays have risen from 10 to 11 days to 15 to 20. The OHA president, Patty Davis, warns it's too soon to call the numbers a trend. Checking in with Nick Kelly on an overall nice evening.
Yeah, certainly it has been, Dal. After we had our rain and storms this morning, we kept things quiet for the afternoon for the most part, and certainly for this evening. After we picked up almost an inch of rain at the regional airport in Joplin today, after we also saw lows dip to 64, we topped out advertised as 85 degrees this afternoon. Nothing on the radar network. Earlier this evening, I was tracking just a couple of storms around Osage and Washington counties in Oklahoma. They fell apart. We kept things quiet with mostly clear skies on top, and this is how we're going to stay as we go through the rest of the night. As far as temperatures are concerned, we're seeing some more upper 60s popping up on the board, and especially in our northern counties. The rest of us, let's say lower to middle 70s at the top of the 10 o'clock hour, but we are thankfully going to drop back to 66 first thing in the morning, and then underneath mostly sunny skies and a light breeze during the day down. We'll have highs topping out around 88. We'll break down the rest of the forecast here in a bit.
Catch you then. A 50-year-old Marionville, Missouri man is dead, and authorities are looking for the man suspected of killing him. Officers responding to calls of a disturbance found Jess Davis dead at his home on South Central in Marionville. Police say Davis had what they describe as multiple laceration injuries. In a news release today, police say they're looking for Jamie Godfrey in connection to the murder. They say he frequents the Aurora and Marionville area. Anyone with information should contact police. Authorities say he's considered dangerous, so do not approach him. The Central Crossing Fire Protection District in Shell Knob, Missouri says first responders rescued 2 people from a house fire. Crews were called out to the home in the Stallion Bluff area. When they arrived, they were informed 2 people were trapped inside. A responding firefighter, sheriff's deputy, and a neighbor took action and were able to rescue both people. One of the residents refused medical treatment. The other was flown to the hospital. In a news release, the Fire Protection District said, quote, "Our thanks to these men for their heroic and brave actions this evening that likely saved 2 lives." Authorities say they believe the fire was intentionally set. A new exhibit at Porter Hall on the Pitt State campus focuses on mental illness. KOAM's Chris Warner spoke with the artist behind the exhibit.
Jared Jennings is not just a former Pitt State student. He's an artist and he's an art teacher at Porter Hall. He created the works now on display, which he calls Nature versus Nurture.
It started out from my own experiences, wanting to talk about, really understand what I was going through, and then it moved to kind of wanting to give other people a voice and tell their stories also.
Jennings is hoping that as people view the exhibit, it will open their eyes to those fighting mental illness and encourage those struggling to reach out.
I hope we can start that conversation. I hope people can go out and actually talk to someone about something I haven't actually been able to talk about.
Morgan Rexwinkle is a music education major at Pitt State. She also struggles with mental illness and has her own creative outlet.
When I am sad and struggling with mental illness, I let everything go into music because that's my life. It's been my life forever, and it just helps to absorb everything that's going on.
She says it's great to see how others express their internal battles.
I definitely think it's interesting to see everybody else's interpretation of mental illness and what it means to other people, because it can be totally something different to you what it is to me, you know.
Jennings says there's one key takeaway from the exhibit.
Before you're a man or a woman, before you're white or black, Christian or Jewish or something like that, you're a human being. That comes first before anything. And mental illness is something that plagues people every day, but it doesn't control them and it doesn't make them any less of a person.
In Pittsburgh, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
It looks like some amazing pieces. The exhibit will run through October 25th. The EPA is working to take care of lead contamination in a Pittsburgh field. That field is on East 4th Street, across from the Mission Clay Products property. A church owns the property and is working with the EPA and the city on the project. It's expected to take about 2 weeks. Crews will excavate the area, backfill, and then sod. This cleanup effort coincides with the city's Mid-City Renaissance project. That's a community visioning plan conducted by the city in 2016 to redevelop the area. City of Joplin is doing a different sort of house cleaning, and you could be the beneficiary. The city is preparing for its annual auction on Saturday. Items on the auction block include office furniture, computers, tools, a whole lot of bicycles, and even some vehicles. You can see the list of items on the city's website and view them in person Friday afternoon or for an hour before the auction begins. That auction is going to be at 9 Saturday morning in the Street Maintenance Barn northwest of the Public Works Center at 1301 West 2nd Street. Still ahead, we're going to tell you about a new security partnership between the U.S., UK, and Australia focused on deterring threats in the Indo-Pacific region. And California's governor survives a recall attempt. President Biden's administration says it plans to resettle around 37,000 Afghan evacuees around the country. And today the administration began notifying governors of where it plans to send those refugees. 490 people will be coming to Kansas, 1,200 are coming to Missouri, 1,800 to Oklahoma. The Kansas State Senate President Ty Masterson says he's worried the evacuees could come to Kansas with COVID-19 infections, and that vetting by Biden's administration won't keep terrorists or terrorist sympathizers out. President Biden today unveiled a new security partnership with Australia and the UK focused on the Pacific region. They're calling it AUKUS, and it comes as tensions have escalated on the Korean Peninsula. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
President Biden and the Prime Ministers of Australia and the United Kingdom are forming a trilateral partnership aimed at deterring threats in the Indo-Pacific region.
This is about investing in our greatest source of strength, our alliances, and updating them to better meet the threats of today and tomorrow.
The UK, Australia, and the US will be joined even more closely together.
Under the agreement, the three nations will work to cooperate across several areas, including defense, technology, supply chains, and information sharing. The group will also have an 18-month consultation period with Australia to help the island nation acquire nuclear-powered submarines.
Australia is not seeking to acquire nuclear weapons or establish a civil nuclear capability.
The Biden administration also says the new agreement is not meant to counter any one nation in the Pacific, such as China. The announcement comes as tensions have again ratcheted up on the Korean Peninsula.
Overnight, South Korea released this video of its first successful submarine-based missile test after North Korea recently launched 2 ballistic missiles in violation of UN sanctions. President Biden is expected to discuss these issues and more next week when he meets face-to-face with world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
The president will also deliver his first address to the UN General Assembly during his visit next week. California Governor Gavin Newsom has survived an attempt to recall him from office with a sizable margin of victory. Close to 2/3 of voters favored keeping Newsom in office. The recall was seen as a referendum on Newsom's lockdown and mandate approach to the pandemic. The leading contender to replace Newsom, conservative talk show host Larry Elder, conceded defeat, but it's likely the two men will face off again in just 14 months in the state's next gubernatorial election. Later, a giant in the world of fossil fuels announces plans to increase its commitment to cleaner energy, but at least one industry analyst says that's not enough.
But first, we'll break down a few more nice days before a little summer heat tries to work back in. Full forecast next. Once we got past the advertised round of rain and storms this morning, we certainly were treated to a nicer Wednesday afternoon all across the board, not just over Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, but at least this time lapse outside of Seneca, Missouri showed the rain that worked on through this morning before the skies really brightened up as our frontal boundary passed on through. The same frontal boundary that launched some scattered storms in our northern counties yesterday afternoon and certainly yesterday evening. Then we had the big push of moisture. I want to show it to you one more time before we move along here. This big push of moisture that fired up in south central Kansas, that's what really worked on through. It gave us the bulk of the rainfall that we saw today, a half an inch on the average across the board. But needless to say, many spots picking up anywhere from half an inch on the low end to as much as 2.5 to almost 3 inches. Much needed rain that we would certainly take, and we certainly got it. And not to mention we were treated to a fairly quiet afternoon overall. Maybe a few isolated storms in parts of Osage and Washington counties earlier this evening, but you saw how those didn't last long at all. We're dry now, and this is how the radar is going to stay as we go through the rest of the night, since we'll stick with clear skies that we're seeing plenty of from 7th and Range Line. 72 in Joplin and east breeze at 7. Humidity not too bad, sitting at 68%. I don't think it's going to get too high, so I'm not too worried about any patchy fog overnight. Still, doesn't change the fact that we'll keep quiet as we go through the rest of the night. As far as temperatures go, some upper 60s are popping up on the board. Everyone else is in the lower, if not mid 70s still. But as long as we keep quiet here and across the entire region, I don't see no reason why we can't drop back into the middle to upper 60s as we go into our Thursday morning. At the surface, there's our cold front, and the trailing end of it that passed on through has stalled out just to the south as a stationary front. That's going to wash out as we go through tomorrow. I will keep an eye on this frontal boundary, even though I don't think it plays a big role as we head toward Friday and Saturday. However, all eyes are on this building upper ridge again out to the west, waiting to see how much summer heat, late summer heat, can work back in here as a result of that ridge coming back into play. But at least we don't have to worry about it for the next few days at the very least, and certainly not for tonight. You can see how with mostly clear skies and the light southeast breeze at 5 to 10 miles per hour, everyone drops back to 66 degrees first thing in the morning, and we'll just keep warm with the humidity low once again throughout the day tomorrow. 83 by noon. We'll push afternoon highs to about 88 in downtown Joplin. Everyone else, let's say mid to upper 80s. Warm, sure, but warm and muggy? Absolutely not. It's looking good for tomorrow. Now let's talk about Friday. I'm keeping the day dry and the football games Friday dry. With that said, that frontal boundary to the northwest is going to try to clip northern parts of Kansas and Missouri. Rain chances will primarily stay to the north, but I wouldn't rule out maybe a few showers late Friday night, early Saturday morning, try to clip parts of the area, but I think that's our only best shot for any rain this weekend. Overall, we're going to keep things dry. I will say, however, we'll watch another strong wave out west as we go into early next week, because it could try to bring a few isolated storms on Monday, but Tuesday and Wednesday, I think that's when it'll really start to not only give us our next best shot for scattered rain, but give us a taste of fall on the first day of fall, which ironically enough kicks off next Wednesday. 88 tomorrow, 89 on Friday, staying near 90 for much of the weekend, and again, Dow, much of the weekend staying dry, but after we start the early week with lows in the highs rather in the lower 90s, hopefully 59 to start Wednesday out and highs near 80 for the first day of fall.
Yeah, and it's kind of coincidental, I suppose, that the temperature that night before the first day of fall will actually be kind of chilly.
but kind of nice too.
You bet. Thanks, Nick. As concerns about the climate crisis grow, petroleum giant Chevron is taking measures to move away from fossil fuels. The company said this week it'll spend $10 billion through 2028 on low carbon energy sources like renewable diesel fuel and hydrogen. It's more than 3 times the earlier number they announced, which was $3 billion. However, one analyst says even with the investment of $10 billion over 7 years, Chevron is still behind the curve. Doug Leggett at Bank of America tells his clients Chevron's green scale is well below its European peers. Apple is unveiling its newest devices. Apple's new line of iPhone 13s don't have the kind of flashy upgrades that grab headlines, but they do have better cameras, batteries, and processing than previous versions, but for about the same price. The new Apple Watch Series 7 is slimmer, but with a wider screen. It also has a full keyboard feature. Apple's new iPad has a better chip for faster processing. That device and its miniature counterpart also have improved cameras. A hiring spree at Amazon and pay raises hitting worker wallets. The e-commerce giant says it wants to hire another 125,000 warehouse and transportation workers. And to sweeten the pot, the company is also handing out $3,000 signing bonuses in some locations. Amazon has also boosted starting wages in the U.S. to more than $18 per hour. Coming up in sports, the Carthage softball team plays its home opener tonight against McDonald County. We're going to have the highlights. And former Joplin High School standout Nathan Glades provides an early season spark for Missouri Southern football. Jacob Leonard has details after the break.
The Missouri Southern Lions are back on the road this weekend, aiming for their first win of the season. Now, the Lions hit the road to Central Oklahoma on Saturday in Week 3. Southern 0-2 to begin the season. Last weekend, the Lions dropped their home opener 21-17 to Northeastern State. Now, in that game, running back and former Joplin High School standout Nathan Glades rushed for 106 yards and a touchdown in just his second career start. Glades and the Lions' rushing attack is one of the biggest positive takeaways for Southern through the first 2 weeks.
We've faced 2 opponents and we ran the ball really well versus 2 opponents. Where we've got to get better is the consistency of running the ball. Being able to run the ball at a high level for 4 straight quarters. And part of that will be as we get the passing game going a little bit more, it'll open up some lanes for the running. But we've gone and we've two MIAA opponents, and we've gone toe-to-toe with them. We've thrown blows with them, and we've had success against them. And so now it's just raising our play, and the level of consistency is what we got to reach now.
The McDonald County softball team's on a roll to start the season. The Mustangs are 8-1 overall and enter the day on a 7-game winning streak. McDonald County tries to stay hot today against Carthage. This one, actually the first home game of the year for the Tigers. Now, Carthage strikes first in the second. Jordan Jones sends it back up the middle. Natalie Rodriguez scores. Tigers up 1. And next inning, look at this. Rodriguez in the field now. Great diving stop. Makes the throw from her knees to get the out. Home team still up 1. Later, 1-1 game now in the 4th. Future Pittsburgh State Gorilla Madeline McCall gets the strikeout from McDonald County. Game stays 1-1 until the 6th. Jordan Jones back up in a big spot for Carthage with a runner on third. Jones delivers a liner to the fence and left. RBI double for Jones, and that was the difference. Carthage snaps McDonald County's winning streak and takes their home opener 2-1.
Jordan Jones, she'd already been 2 for 2 leading into that game. She had the big RBI in the 2nd or 3rd inning that gave us the 1-0 lead. And there at the end, she had a great at bat. She fouling balls off, and with the 0-2 pitch, drove one over the left fielder's head. I just knew if we could get the runner to the 3rd, we had a chance there. Put the bat in the senior's hand there and just let her have a shot at it. And she took it, and she owned it there.
The St. Louis Cardinals have won 6 of their last 7. Their recent hot streak has the Cards in sole possession of the 2nd wild card spot in the National League coming into the day. St. Louis wraps up their series with the Mets tonight. The Cards aim for the 3-game sweep and their 5th consecutive win. Tyler O'Neill in the 1st. That brings in 2. Cardinals have the early lead. Just 2 batters later, it's Harrison Bader dropping one in shallow center. St. Louis gets 5 runs in the first to take control of the game early, but Bader not done there. In the fourth now, solo shot, his 12th homer of the season, makes it 6-2. They also got it done in the field here. Javi Baez goes deep to center, but Bader there against the wall to make the grab. All Cardinals tonight, they roll by the Mets 11-4. Also this evening, the Royals hit the field for Game 2 against the A's. It's like reverse of the Cardinals game, kind of. That one's in the top of the 8th. Kansas City down 12-6. Salvador Perez has a home run, though, his 44th of the season. That's it for sports. We're back with more news after this.
Time now to honor a local veteran. Sergeant Elmer Shields Jr. served in the U.S. Army. His hometown, Chanute, Kansas. And we are proud to salute Sergeant Elmer Shields Jr. He's tonight's four-state hero. Simpsons fans will tell you there's no one friendlier than Ned Flanders, Homer Simpson's high and mighty happy-go-lucky neighbor. Maybe that's why officials in the city of Portland decided to name its newest bike and pedestrian bridge Ned Flanders Crossing. And the $9.5 million project is the latest in a series of projects in the state honoring TV's longest running show and its creator, Matt Groening, who's a native Portlander. You can catch The Simpsons every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Fox 14. So, Simpsons fans, anybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Not hardcore, but I watch it occasionally.
Yeah, I did not know who Ned Flanders was. Sorry to admit. But, you know, I'll blame it on my schedule. I like to watch a lot of Simpsons.
Final weather check?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oakley dokley. We'll keep things warm and not so humid tomorrow with highs in the upper 80s. And for Friday, maybe a random shower early Saturday morning, but we're dry for much of the weekend.
I do get the reference. Final sports note.
Pitt State football on the road this weekend against Northeastern State. We'll hear from them tomorrow night.
Don't forget our morning show, and let's make it a great tomorrow.